before making your questions and indicate which minister your question is addressed to. And as a reminder for Finnish media, you will have a chance to ask in Finnish later on, so let's keep this in English. Okay, so let's do 3 questions. Here, here, and there. So.
Reuters News. I would like to ask all the ministers, do your respective countries stand ready to send troops to Ukraine under the leadership of the United States if the security guarantees promised to Ukraine yesterday will materialize? Thank you.
Then next question from here.
Yeah, hello, Jesper Tobo Carlsen from Politiken in Denmark. Some of you mentioned the General Assembly next month in New York, and it seems that 4 of you going into that assembly are in favor of recognizing a Palestinian state. The Danish government has come out against that. Finland, I'm not quite sure, I'm not an expert on Finnish politics, but maybe as a question you can inform me, Minister, what the Finnish position is, and have you discussed this? And is there a Nordic position? Have you come closer to a Nordic agreement on this issue?
Just to clarify, are you addressing one or all ministers?
Well, this is, I guess, a question for the Finnish minister, okay. Since it would take too much time.
Okay, thank you very much.
All of you.
And then last question from here.
I'm Tuli Kukka, Finnish broadcasting company. I'm addressing this to all of you, but if Anand and Valtonen can answer later, preferably before. How credible do you see that the peace plan for Ukraine could be without a ceasefire? And also about security guarantees. What type of further deal, or would it be troops or ammunition, military aid for Ukraine, did you possibly discuss here as part of the security guarantees?
I suggest we start with the host who was addressed all 3 questions and then take it from there. Minister, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the questions. What comes to troops to Ukraine, my colleagues are, of course, welcome to comment, but I can speak on all of our behalf to the extent that we have started the work within the Coalition of the Willing framework, and there have been no decisions thus far as what comes to the overall framework and neither to the individual contributions. So that would certainly be the answer from the Finnish side, at least. Sorry. Then what comes to the question of Palestine and the Middle East, 2 things. We of course discussed this in very strong detail and to great depth we agree. The first thing is of course that this immediate situation which is unfolding in Gaza and which unfortunately has been unfolding for too long has to come to an end. And I should add, not just in Gaza, but especially in the West Bank, which is happening a little bit under the radar. Israel is extending its settlements, which to begin with are against international law, and also settler violence has increased. So this is really the right time to not just address the acute problem of not enough humanitarian aid, of really human suffering across the Gaza Strip, but also the suffering of the people who are robbed of their lands and their possibilities to create their future. Now, the second thing is political process towards a 2-state solution. Finland, just like everybody here, is a strong promoter of the 2-state solution, and we don't see any other possibility for a lasting, peaceful future in the Middle East, other than solving the conflict between Israel and Palestine according to the 2-state solution. And now we not only salute but also strongly contribute and participate in the work which has now led to a conference already in New York a couple of weeks ago on the two-state solution, on finding parameters within the international group of countries, what would in practice imply, or what would be the requirements for, in practice, putting together the two-state solution on both sides, securing the future and the security for Palestine, but also the same for Israel. And we are working together with our international partners on the criteria which involve a peaceful administration in Palestine, getting rid of Hamas in the administration, also disarming Hamas, and also there's a project or there's a prospect for a demilitarized Palestine whose security would be taken care of, by the international community. So we are contributing to this. And at some point in the process, there will be a recognition, but we don't have any new news here. And we are certainly scrutinizing the right moment. And again, discussing this also together with our partners. And everything we do needs to contribute to the peaceful and constructive future towards the two-state model and not be just a symbol. And needless to say, we want all the hostages to be released, and we strongly condemn everything Hamas has done, not just on the 7th of October, but also thereafter. Now, on the final question, you asked whether the peace plan can be credible if there's no ceasefire. Well, I would say it this way: there's no peace plan if there's no ceasefire, because you wouldn't have peace if there wasn't, a cessation of hostilities. So how we see this is that it is extremely good that we are in a situation where we are talking about peace and we are talking about a credible, lasting solution to the extremely unfortunate and devastating war of aggression that Russia has been waging against Ukraine for way too long. At the same time, we haven't seen anything from Russia yet which would prove that they are ready to actually be involved in a true peace process. They are masters in buying time. And therefore, whereas we welcome the possibility of finding a peace solution quickly, I guess experience has shown that peace solutions, especially lasting ones, don't come about too quickly, but we are happy to support this process, very much so. But if it didn't happen too quickly, then two things would need to happen. We would need to continue to press on ending the hostilities and stopping the killing, starting with stopping the killing of civilians and stopping the deporting of children, and rather bringing them back. And the second thing is, if this doesn't happen, we need to add pressure on Russia in any possible way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will offer the possibility to answer to Minister Anand, please.
I will speak about the Ukraine question, if I could, just to add to what Elina has said, but adding the Canadian perspective, if I could. First of all, there is an opportunity now to end Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. And as I said, security guarantees are essential to any just and lasting peace. The idea of a security guarantee, however, is not new this week. We have been discussing the importance of stable security guarantees at least since the Vilnius summit in 2023. The work that the Coalition of the Willing is doing now is absolutely fundamental to adding the structure around the security guarantees and in particular the obligations that each country will adhere to. But the commitment to a security guarantee has been present, and that's important. Why? Because Ukraine's sovereign independence and territorial integrity has been long recognized as fundamental to ending the unjust and illegal war that Russia began and perpetuated on February 24th, 2022. For Canada's part, we have trained over 44,000 members of the Ukrainian Armed Forces through Operation Unifier, that is an operation of the Canadian Armed Forces, and have built up a strong partnership with Ukraine and the Ukrainian Armed Forces that will stand the test of time, and we will be there in the short and the long term for Ukraine. We've put on the table $22 billion in humanitarian, financial, and military aid for Ukraine. Now, security guarantees are one piece of this analysis, but let's not forget the important aid that has been necessary to ensure that Ukraine continues its defense strongly for its country. And finally, on sanctions, Canada has sanctioned over 3,000 individuals and entities, including Putin and his inner circle, members of the Russian Security Council, and we've added sanctions for the protection of Ukrainian culture from destruction by Russia, and participated in the oil and gas cap recently. So make no mistake, we signed this statement together, all of us, on Ukraine, because we all believe that Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty are absolutely fundamental, not only to the survivability of Ukraine, but to the democratic principles upon which we have relied as countries for our own freedom and security since the end of the Second World War. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And since we have already run out of time, I would ask very brief responses from our four Nordic guests, starting from Sweden.
Okay, thank you. Well, on security guarantees, I would say even though we've been discussing this for quite some time, we are still early in the process. So Sweden has said that we are willing to contribute, but we'll come back to how when the details are being defined. And we have always said that it is important that US is involved. So therefore, I think that the statements that have been made by President Trump during the recent days are very positive. But like I said, we have a lot to work out in the coalition of the willing. Thank you.
Thank you, and then Denmark, please.
Yeah, I promise to be brief, because I said in my opening remarks that we share values and we walk the talk, and therefore it's easy. The third question, I totally agree with Elina said in her very comprehensive answer. And according to the first question about security guarantees, I mean, since we walk the talk, we are also, and I'm talking about Denmark, in principle ready to participate. But as Maria said, it's still, work in early process. But we are, in principle, of course, ready to participate. And then just a small remark to Jesper Turbo, because I think we all want to recognize Palestine. So it's basically a question about timing. It's a question whether it should be a recognition under the assumption that this and that will happen, or it should be under the precondition that this and that happen. And we had an in-depth discussion about that yesterday, and I think we should continue our cooperation on this particular field, because I don't think the differences in the Nordic family are as big as you could have the impression if you just look at whether it's recognition now or not now.
Thank you. Norway, please.
Yes, first on security guarantees, yes, we have been participating in this throughout the planning process because we want to contribute to what we end up doing. But of course, until we have concluded exactly what that is, it's too early to say in exactly what way. But let me just remind you that the whole idea is that first you need a ceasefire and a peace, and then there's a peace agreement, and if that is violated, the security guarantees will kick in. So security guarantees is not going into the war as it is today, but it is to prevent it from restarting. And that, in principle, can happen both with troops inside Ukraine or without troops inside Ukraine. I mean, many NATO countries have very firm security guarantees to protect them without necessarily having troops physically present. But then you will have concrete military planning exercises and a clear concept for how you would, in a credible way, support Ukraine in that case. So with that understanding, at least we will definitely contribute, but we need to know what to contribute to before we can answer exactly what we will contribute. And then I want to echo Lars on the Middle East. I mean, yes, there are 4 countries that have recognized already, 2 who have not yet. But you know, I believe that the Nordics and Canada are very much of the same view when it comes to the trajectory here. We need to end this horrible war. We need to improve the humanitarian situation immediately. But we also need to find a way to solve the underlying conflict, which did not start on 7th of October, but decades ago. And that requires a clear political solution between Israel and Palestine proper, not Hamas, but the Palestine government or Palestine Authority. And here I think there's no difference in perspective. The only difference right now is the issue of sequencing. But since we collaborate on this, we will definitely keep coordinating our positions.
Thank you. And Iceland, please.
Yes, regarding the question from Reuters, the safeguards, of course, Iceland will participate and do what's necessary, but also bear in mind we have no army. If you are thinking about boots on the ground, we have no army. We are still a founding member of NATO since 1949, and we are, of course, participating in the coalition of the willing. So Iceland, we may be small in size, but we contribute in ways that matter. And just to give you the broader picture, we co-lead the demining coalition with Lithuania. We have also support battlefield medic training, supported that, and also we have funded equipment through the Czech and also the Danish initiatives. So we can do something like this, and we are ready to do what Ukraine is craving, and do what they need, and also what we can do to strengthen also the infrastructure of Ukraine. And I'm thinking of my first visit in the beginning of this year to Ukraine and to Kiev, and watching all the bombs the Russian bombs that destroyed electricities and generators, and that is something that we in Iceland could do as well. But of course, we will do what's needed.
Thank you, ministers. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This press conference has now concluded. The Finnish media will have a chance to ask questions in Finnish right outside of this building, right in just a couple of minutes, and there will be a bilateral opportunity to talk to ministers from Finland and Canada at around 2:20 on the second floor of this building, and our colleagues will guide you there. So thank you very much, and ministers, I will guide you out.
And whoever wants to come to speak in Finnish, please.
We learn. Keep this.